Give it up for Jack Edge. Thank you.
So I'm going to try without the mic, but if anyone can't see, just shout, because I'll probably start loud and then end really quiet. It's been great to see everything so far, that no one really has talked too much about paid social. I thought that with the guys that are talking, we all kind of do very similar things or sit within the same world. So when I did these slides this morning, to be totally honest with you, I thought, oh my God, what about if we're all talking about the same thing? So before we dig in, just a little bit about me. Why am I here? I've spent the last 12 years or so in hospitality marketing roles. So 12 years ago, joined as a digital marketing exec at Novus Leisure. So as Dan was talking about, I was based at Tiger Manchester, but massively involved in the late night London project, and all the work that they did with dynamic CRM at the time. So that really opened my eyes into what you can do with data 12 years ago, kind of before anyone else was really doing it. They were kind of the leaders of it, weren't they? Spent a couple of years with Novus, then moved on to Tokyo Industries, which is 36 student bars and clubs, essentially. So being 19, 20 years old, doing marketing for 99p drinks, 99p entry, it was an absolute dream. Spent a couple of years there, had a hangover most of the days that I was in the office. And then I've spent the last 6 years or so at Mission Mars, so essentially running the marketing team that are responsible for Albert Slosh and Rudy's Pizza. And that's where I crossed paths with Dan, Georgina and the Airship team. So when I started at Mission Mars, we had one Albert Slosh, one Rudy's Pizza, and the business was right at the start of trying to work out, what do these brands look like? How do we market? What do we do? What is right for us and what isn't? And when I first joined, I said, well, what's our database? And we had an Excel spreadsheet, basically. So went out there, did some research of what's what, and through connections of Roy and Neil from Revolution, we said, well, we need to, you guys built Party Pro at the time for Revolution. So we said, well, we need to get Airship. So I first crossed paths with the Airship guys 8 years ago when we onboarded onto Albert Slosh and Rudy's Pizza, and essentially being a self-proclaimed super user of the platform for the last 8 years or so. Little caveat there, I have probably annoyed Georgina for the last 8 years there as well. Georgina gave me her mobile number about 5 years ago, and I'm sure regrets it every single time that I call her. About 12 months or so ago, I left Mission Mars because I had a great team of 8 that essentially were doing all of the work and I had my feet up. So the first 3 years at Mission Mars was for me working out, how do we do CRM? What do websites look like? What's our page strategy? What do launches look like? And the last 2 or 3 years, really, the team were delivering that and I had my feet up. So I quit and I went to go and do something else. It didn't work out, so we won't go into the details, but I was there for around 2 weeks. So it was my choice, not theirs, by the way. I didn't get fired after 2 weeks. So I had a choice. Do I go back with my tail between my legs as somewhere where I've loved working for the last 6 years? Or do I try and do something that I'm really passionate about? So I've always really been on the digital side of marketing as opposed to creative. And throughout working at Mission Mars in particular, we worked with a hell of a lot of agencies, whether it be PR, digital, creative, design. And I used to get really, really annoyed by them. Forgot that this is recording, so I'll be careful what I say. But I used to get really annoyed by some agencies in the fact that you spend thousands of pounds a month on a retainer and essentially get a report at the end of the month from some agency. So instead of going back to Mission Mars, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go freelance. This is the time. Let's give it a go. So I spent the last 6 months the first 6 months of the last year doing freelance projects, web development, Airship implementation, moving clients like Emil's here, I think I've seen him. Loungers and Cozy Club wanted a new CRM, introduced them to Airship and managed that project for them. Things have kind of blown up over the last 12 months, to be honest. We're now a team of 2. So Kate over in the back joined me 3 months ago. Kate is my digital marketing manager from Rudy's. So Kate came over after 3 years at Rudy's, some reason wanted to spend more years with me. I don't know why. But essentially we now trade under the name of EDGEY, and we're essentially a digital marketing agency exclusively for hospitality. I say the word agency loosely. We're kind of in a transition period of me going from freelance, I hate agencies, I'll really help you, to now ultimately we're an agency, right? So a little bit of brand project needed there. But essentially we do digital strategy, web development, paid social, PPC, and 80% of our time is done doing CRM strategy and implementation for our clients. And we work with the likes of NQ64, Cozy Club, Bundibus, Comptoir, etc. When Dan rang me last week and said, do you want to talk about some of the great work you're doing for some of these clients? I got on the phone to all of them and said, can we talk about this? And all of them said, no, there's no way you're talking about what you're doing for us for Christmas, etc., apart from NQ64. So all I'm going to talk about is 2 things that we've done in the last 3 months for NQ64, all related to how paid social can drive CRM and how CRM can drive your paid social. So the first case study we're going to look at is the first of those is what are we doing on paid social that really drives Airship and getting Airship moving for NQ64. For those that don't know, NQ64 is an arcade bar and they're late night cocktails, kind of really walk-in only. They've got 11 locations across the UK, 1 in Shoreditch across the road, Soho, Manchester, and then the rest all up in the north. So when I first started working with them about 6 months ago, kind of top level digital strategy of what have you got currently and what is the opportunity for us. So we do their paid social, their CRM, their website development, kind of an all-in digital. So the first thing we looked at was where was their data coming from. And the pie chart on the right-hand side is of the clients that I can't go into on an individual basis, where is their data coming from the clients that we're working with. And you'll see that the majority are bookings or Wi-Fi. Now for NQ64 are mainly a walk-in bar. They do take bookings, but it's about 5% of trade. Due to the nature of their locations, they're usually also in basements, so their Wi-Fi percentage is a hell of a lot higher. But actually what we found is the smallest contributor to new data to the business was their web form. So that they weren't actively collecting new data or acquiring new customers. Anyone that was on their CRM had already been within the business. They'd signed up to the Wi-Fi or placed a booking or used the order at pay or used the photo booth. So it's worth thinking about when you look at your CRM strategies and what are you doing. Where does your data come from? So before you go, I want to do this, do you actually know where yours is coming from and what do you need to optimize and what do you need to improve on what? So one of the first things that NQ64 said when we started working with them was we want to increase the amount of new data that we get into the business. So we had conversations around sales and how do we, increase pre-book sales and therefore get the data that way. But actually I put my paid social hat on and said, well, we can acquire you customers via paid social, just like you would with website traffic or a booking. So we started working with NQ64 in April this year. And at the time they were getting around 500 organic website signups via their Airship form on their website. They were doing paid social, so they were driving traffic and bookings, but they weren't necessarily targeting new customers as part of that. So we put a bit of a focus on data acquisition and using meta lead gen tools particularly, which I'll come on to. And essentially have taken them from around 500 signups a month to more like 5,000. So far in September, I think we've had 2,700 in the first couple of days of this month. Now, I thought James would make this comment, so before he says it, before anyone else does, there's a balance between quality and quantity, because there is absolutely no point in getting 6,000 new signups a month if they're not interested in your brand, they're not in the locations where you are, and ultimately they don't convert. So we want to make sure that we're proving an ROI on this. So we've got 5,000 new customers flowing into Airship effectively via paid social every month. Well, what are we doing with it, or how did we get them there first? So we ran a couple of tests on Meta ads. So this may look familiar for some people, it might not. So on Meta, you've got a couple of ways that you can run your Facebook ads. You can run a link to your Airship form or a link to the sign up page on your website. But actually what we found, and Dan might not like me for saying this, is the cost per click or cost per conversion was cheaper if you use Meta's built-in lead generation tool. Why? Meta want you to stay within the platform, not go off to nq64.co.uk or to an Airship form. So we essentially ran multiple versions of an advert with multiple different offers and creative that essentially took the guest on a journey of, I don't know if you can read this, I can't from up here, but do you want to win a night out at NQ64, which we mentioned competitions before? Enter the form. Now the person never leaves Meta. They fill in their name and email address is automatically pre-filled because Meta knows it. And the beauty of this that isn't on this screen, every single person in this room has given their date of birth to Facebook when you created your account. And I forgot that I've even done that. So every single person that signs up via this meta form, we get the date of birth for straight away without the customer having to provide it to us. Last stage of that is obviously privacy policy, and except that, you know, we are passing data from Meta into Airship, etc., and we need to make sure that that's covered from a brand point of view. But essentially, those 5,000 people have followed this journey. They filled in a Meta lead generation form. And we have found, just to ditto what Alan was saying earlier on, that actually a competition to win something is the best performing incentive. So we've tested probably 8 different offers. Do you want a free drink? Do you want a free cup of tokens? The best performing one that we found for this brand is, do you want to win a night out on us? It's ambiguous, it's vague. There is T's and C's and the privacy policy as part of this campaign. But actually, from a value exchange point of view, we're finding that, yeah, okay, I'll give you my data in exchange for the chance of winning a night out. So we've got 5,000 people a month filling in this form. Isn't that expensive? Facebook ads are ridiculously expensive. Well, no. What if I told you that per sign up, it was the price of a Freddo 10, 15 years ago? So we're paying per sign up 12p. So I really liked what James said before, that would you give me £5 to give you 80 back? Would you give me 12p for a qualified lead, essentially, if you think about it from a sales point of view? So in the last couple of months, we've generated nearly 12,000 new sign-ups for NQ64 at an average cost of 12p. So we spent about £2,500. So just think about that in a second. We spent £2,500 to acquire those 12,000 new email addresses. Now, they're not customers at this stage. They've signed up. I think I've just touched on some of that, but make sure we learned that you need to have a clear value exchange. So split test loads of different offers when you do this. Use creative that converts. Weirdly, and I don't know why, the image of this girl drinking the cocktail is the best performing creative. Usually what we find for other clients is that video converts 40% more, but actually in NQ64's case, so it's not a one rule for all. So whenever you're running any campaigns on paid social, run it. Anna spoke about A/B testing. We do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, because then you'll learn which one should I be putting my cash on. So where we're spending our cash this week is on this exact advert that you see this. What has helped this to convert at such a low cost and such a high volume is we make sure that we've got Facebook Pixel installed on the website. So Meta can understand what does an NQ64 user and customer look like, so that this advert isn't being shown to my nan, as an example, who lives in Blackpool's 85 and she's never going to go to an NQ64. But then we tap into Audience Plus, and I'll come on to exporting data in a second. But the first thing that we did was tell Meta what a NQ64 customer looks like. So we went into Airship, we exported the full database, and we uploaded it to Meta and said, that's our customers, find people like it. So Meta has tools to say, tell me your customers, and I'll find people that are 1% like it. Now, I'll admit we cocked up when we first launched this, because we ran this advert at every city, every location where there is an NQ64, so 11 cities across the UK. And we found out that they were all filling it. We essentially got one Excel sheet of all the sign-ups. So when we went to upload it to Airship, we went, shit, which unit do we put them in? Well, they're going to have to go in head office. So what ideally we want to know is, well, where are they? There's no point collecting all this data to then talk to them about stuff that a venue that just isn't relevant to them. So we've actually got, in theory, 11 different versions of this campaign running now that is essentially linked to 11 different Excel sheets, if you like. So when you export it off the back of Meta, it gives you an Excel sheet. I'd like to make a development suggestion for Dan and the team. Every day at 9 AM, the first thing that Kate does is log into Meta, download this data, and upload it into Airship. The reason we do that every day is we want this person that signed up to enter our welcome flow. They've probably got an open API to be able to pass that data. But essentially, we're having to manually upload that at the moment, and we're choosing to do it daily. I know James is going to pick me out on this at some point, but we've got all that data flowing in. Does it convert, and what happens with it? So when Kate uploads it at 9 o'clock every day, they essentially join our welcome flow. So our welcome flow for NQ64 is made up of over 26 different emails, but for simplicity, there's 3 screenshotted on this page. So instantly, or at 9 a.m. in most cases, they get a welcome email that talks about the location where they are. Thanks for joining the database. You've entered the competition. We will be in touch soon when we pick someone, and we manually pick one of those using Airship's randomised tool at the end of each month. We then take them on a journey over the next 60 days, which is where we are currently, of educating them about the brand, talking to them about the arcade machines that are in their specific location, and talking about any offers that NQ64 as a brand want to push. At one key stage, we then send them a preference centre. So everybody who has filled in this advert then receives a preference centre. About 10 days later, where findings are optimal, because we want to know, well, why do you like NQ64 as a brand? Why have you signed up? So when are you likely to visit us? Is it after work drinks? Is it, you know, I come on a date night, a first date, and other examples. We've got all of those options in the preference centre. NQ64 has a very diverse demographic of customers. I often go with my girlfriend as somewhere to go for a fun drink before a meal out in Manchester. Whereas one part of their demographic is what they call games nerds. So we ask, are you a games nerd? Because then we split off this journey and talk to people that are games nerds differently to how they talk to me. I want to know about your buy one, get one free cocktails. So that's really important that we find that a lot of clients that we're working with, yeah, we have a preference form, but what are you doing with it? Are you then splitting off and personalising your communications based on that data? And then every single person, even though they've entered a competition to win a night out, every single person that has entered this welcome flow, if after 60 days we haven't seen them in one of our venues using proof of presence, so Wi-Fi, photo booth, booking, we send them a cup of tokens for free. Because a cup of tokens at NQ64 costs the business nothing. It's reusable, it's used the machines. So if after 60 days we don't see you, come and have a cup of tokens in the next 7 days to try and prompt that visit. And I'll come on to conversion rate of that in a second. So was it Alan that mentioned everybody should be a winner? In theory, ignore the night out. You've essentially got your night out. It's a cup of tokens. The most important thing that we're learning with this is when NQ64 did something similar years ago, they did a show this email and we'll give you your tokens. Not only is that open to abuse, because I'd use it 6 times and forward it on to people, this is now a Airship Rewards toggle voucher. So because NQ64 doesn't take table bookings, it doesn't do pre-book tables, it doesn't have any EPOS data attributed to a booking, we're essentially working out what is the attributed spend from this based on the transaction data of when that toggle voucher is redeemed. So someone redeems a cup of tokens, we can see that on average someone is spending £24 when they do so. So the cup of tokens goes through the till for free using the toggle voucher, and then they're buying on average 3.6 drinks at the moment using that. So even if you just do some quick maths on that, we spent £2,500. Oh no, wait, I'm too early. Okay, so now if we put that into a funnel where you imagine your full digital marketing funnel, but actually just marrying up Meta and Airship together for this use case. A bit of a weird stat, but 100% of the people that we showed an advert to showed an advert, 40% clicked it and 22% filled in or converted on that lead gen form. And this is only so high because we've optimized this ad over a series of weeks. So if 22% of the people we showed an ad to complete the form, that means that 22% of the people who we tried to reach get the welcome email. On average, 13% of that original cohort at the start then get our subsequent, so I've got a typo there, it's welcome email too, it's actually welcome emails that are following it. And what we know from our toggle data is that 7% of that original cohort visit in the first 60 days after they get their we've not seen you voucher. So 7% of 12,000 is about 700. So we've drove 700 new customers into NQ64 by spending £2,500, but those customers never come on their own. Why would you go to a bar on your own? You wouldn't substitute. So £24 average transaction value, 700, the math is already way over £2,500. So that's just one example of how you can almost combine Airship journeys that convert and Meta to try and drive loads of new data together in one, essentially. Any questions on that bit before I jump into the... Oh, God. Don't ask me something I don't know. Go on.
Yeah, Liz.
Sorry if we already covered this, but so you said you're downloading the data every morning to then upload to Airship.
Yes.
Is there a reason you lead them to a Facebook legion form as opposed to an Airship form?
Yes. It's cheaper. So it was about 26p per conversion to send somebody to a Airship form or NQ64 sign-up form. The only reason being Meta wants the user to stay on the platform. So from an advertiser point of view, they're favouring it's cheaper for us as an advertiser to use their on-site lead gen forms. And also it takes out that extra step of conversion journey because customer stays here and fills it in, whereas if they go to our website, accept the cookie banner, scroll down, fill in the form. Yeah. In an ideal world, we'd have it flowing straight into Airship, but it is what it is.
You're also, Jack, I reckon, better. You're getting more accurate birthday data.
Yep.
People that sign up.
Yep.
Like, my birthday's next week.
Yeah.
It's always your birthday next week,
Yep.
isn't it? Like, it's not why is that?
Yep.
Yeah, because you joined Meta 50 years ago. You actually put in your real date of birth.
Yeah, so we're not currently doing birthday marketing for NQ64 for one reason, is when we started working with them. If you go on NQ64's website and click book now, Collins will ask you what's your date of birth required as part of the booking journey. But because they're not using a Collins widget, they're using a custom built API essentially, the date defaults as today's date. So when we looked at it, their average age was like 12 years old. Yeah. Well, it's an 18 plus venue. Yeah. So when I go and book there, I just click today because it's the easiest option. So we're not currently doing it, but we know that it's 100% accurate based on if you told Facebook the right date of birth years ago. Yeah.
Another one here.
Are you using the same welcome flow for people who generally sign up or just exclusively for this journey?
No, we're not. One, because if we know that someone has joined via booking or Wi-Fi, they're already a customer of the bar, so we don't necessarily need to tell them what games are in that building because they know they've been before. But also we've got copy and email one that says you've entered into the competition, we'll announce it in due course. So no, completely separate welcome journeys. Some of the content is replicated.
Can I ask a question about opt-in?
Yes.
On that Facebook journey there was no sort of checkbox or anything, but it did have privacy on it.
There isn't. I'm not a lawyer, and I know this is being recorded, but on the final page, it does, we can customize that text.
Yeah.
So by submit, you are you're allowing NQ64 to contact you for marketing messages. Yeah. So there is no marketing checkbox.
When you download the data from Facebook, does it show you that people have agreed to privacy or something?
Yes, and
like that?
with IP address.
Yeah, great.
And it's all opt-in.
Yeah,
so there's
great.
no filter to filter out the no's because you can't say no.
And if you then upload that to your Airship account, if somebody's on Airship and they're opted out, do you opt them back in? Or do you preserve
we preserve their current opt-in status, just from a historic point of view, because they might have just filled this. We don't want to piss people off. They might have just filled this in to win a competition. Yeah. You could argue they've re-opted in, but we don't. No.
Yeah. Okay. Another question over there.
Sorry.
That kind of obviously answered it.
Oh, did it?
Thinking about that kind of where it would be better to Airship and the kind of legality around that, I guess, but that.
I mean, the way how we get that this data, it's literally, and I can show you after this if you like, it's an Excel sheet that has first name, last name, email address, date of birth, IP address, opt-in consent as yes. So it's the same as if you had a booking system which wasn't API integrated. We're trusting it as data that's been opted in.
Another one there?
It wasn't so much a question, more just another plus one for an integration for that to work, because I've also been on local IAM everyday uploads.
Yeah, fine, okay, all right. It's in it is in the plan, a Meta.
Well, what I tried looking at was, is there a way that I could get this to almost like trying to write a script for a macro in the meantime to save Kate's time? Could I download this to a Google Sheet and then via Zapier push it into you know?
We don't want you downloading data out of Airship full stop, truthfully, because of the GDPR issues around that. I mean, you know, it's just there's an added layer of risk. So if we did a Meta link and you connected your Meta account to your Airship account, and it was automated, it would do it both ways, both export and import. Okay.
So that's about, I suppose, acquiring new data via Meta. Now I just want to talk about how you can use your Airship data to power paid social, so the other way around. Interestingly, Dan's just said he doesn't really want you exporting your data. So make sure you answer no to this question. GDPR join the chat. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a marketeer. It's a grey area. Dan's more clued up on that. I do export our Airship data for all of our clients. Obviously, I make sure it's deleted from my laptop after I have uploaded it to where I need to upload it to. And obviously, I make sure that their privacy policy is covered, that I can utilize that data for paid social retargeting as well. Why should you export your Airship data? So we run campaigns for clients that are aside from lead generation, so Christmas bookings being one of them. So if, let's take one example, because I can say this, we're currently running paid social campaigns for Cozy Club for Christmas. It's a bit early, we started 2 months ago. The first thing I said is, I want to tell Meta who came with you last year. Now, instead of getting a res diary export, which covers bookings, which is probably, 60% of that trade during that time, I actually want your Airship data. Because that's got your wireless social, it's got your res diary, it's got your photo business, it's got your order and pay, everything else within it. The reason why we export Airship data for our clients is that's your engine room. I think the word someone else used before of Airship knows, or Dan and the team know, who your customers are. And I need to say to Meta, these are what our customers are, so you can find people like it, essentially. So we don't want to run paid social ads blind, because CRM knows who converts and visits, and we want our campaigns to be optimized towards that. And when you marry up Airship and Meta's data, you actually get over 500 data points. Okay. So there's loads of things that Airship knows about a client. How often do they visit? What do they spend? What do they order? What's their EPOS data? But Meta knows what's their location, how often do they go on holiday, what spending category they're in, etc. So although we're not uploading that EPOS data to Meta, you're always combining the, is someone veg or vegan? How long do they watch a video for, etc. So we like to marry up that Airship and metadata to optimize our campaigns. And also, ultimately, every single person in this room is sending emails out. So when it's Mother's Day this year, we're all going to send a Mother's Day email. Well, we want to hit people with our marketing messages where they're spending on average 4 hours a day, which is on social media. Every night I go home and I lie in bed on one side away from my girlfriend and I sit and scroll and watch TikTok. Everybody does it. So we it's not going very well. But we want to hit our marketing messages of Christmas on email and on social at exactly the same time, and we want it to be targeted. But it also allows us to find people that are like the customers that you've got within your CRM. It allows us to be more targeted and have a stronger return on ad spend. So I think it went back to one of the questions about spend. We've got it down to 12p. It would be 35p, 40p, 50p if we weren't feeding Meta the data on what we wanted to convert on. One really top level example of this is NQ64 opened in Leeds 2 weeks ago, ish. 2 weeks ago. So what we did was we got all of NQ64's data, regardless of the city, and told Meta, this is what an NQ64 customer looks like. Find people like that in Leeds and show the adverts to those people before anyone else. So don't show the ads to people who we don't think are going to convert. Or I see people running ads all the time at target Leeds train station plus 5 kilometres. Well, yeah, do that, but also tell Meta who you want to favour as part of that algorithm. And by doing so, we reached 700,000 people as part of these initial campaigns in pre-opening. A 3% conversion rate on our campaign, 7,000 clicks to site. But the conversion rate off the back of those campaigns to sign up or to book was so much higher, and our cost per click was so much lower because we told Meta what kind of person we want to target. We spoon-fed it, essentially.
It works. There's any consolation. I signed up. I was one of your.
Fantastic. And then obviously for their launch, we ran 16 different campaigns, different adverts at different points. But the main point was, instead of being really generic about showing advert in Leads of people who like going out, we're feeding Meta. And I can show it if anyone wants to know how to do it. On Business Manager, there's a tool to say, upload my data in custom audiences. And you upload a custom audience and you say, this is my Wi-Fi data. And people like Wireless Social have got a direct integration. Yeah. So the Wireless Social data for NQ64 doesn't go straight in. Yeah. And then last one on how we got really niche with this. So as part of NQ64's preferences, we said before that we ask, what type of person are you? Why do you visit us? Are you a games nerd? Do you come for a drink before your meal out, your night out, whatever it might be? Whenever NQ64 open a new site, They want 500 nerds, and I'll be careful how I say this, to come and test the games. And this isn't like what me and you know is pre-opening influencers PR. This is before that. This is genuine testing of the games. Is the Sega Mega Drive working as it should? Is something not loading properly, etc.? So we help them fill the slots for leads. We've never supported in one of their openings before, but what we did was we exported the games nerds that we know are in Airship, and exactly the same methodology said to Meta, show an advert to people like this who we think are a games nerd in leads that are 1% similar within 3 kilometers of the venue. And essentially that was an Airship form because we weren't bothered about getting them subscribed. We wanted them to fill in an Airship form to apply to be a games tester. So 1,000 people applied, 500 people got in, and it was full of the right kind of people for their games testing. The worst Photoshop you've ever seen on the left-hand side as well. So what am I trying to say as part of this? To talk for hours about paid social. I believe that Airship and paid social as part of digital strategy have to work together. They have to be aligned. Only because Airship is such a powerhouse of data about who is an actual customer of yours that I want to give that to Meta to help me optimize my other campaigns. By doing so, you'll increase your click-through rate, you'll improve your return on ad spend, you'll increase your conversion rate, etc. I believe or think we've proved that Meta can be a driver of new data, but make sure you've got a separate welcome journey to convert them that's relevant to that message. Segmentation is king. People always talk about it, but tap into that games nerds data and how can you use it for something else. Use Airship rewards because NQ64 doesn't take bookings. It's like 4 or 5% take bookings. We want that proof of presence data via the toggle voucher. So whenever you're giving something away for free, £5 a drink, a couple of tokens, use the toggle voucher because then you get the EPOS data related back to it. And it doesn't cost millions to do paid social properly. If anyone in the room is clicking boost post still, please stop and I'll give you 5 minutes after on why you shouldn't. You can start small. So we're obviously spending thousands of pounds a month on generating data and loads of other campaigns for NQ64, but you can start with a £5 a day budget and run it next week, yeah, and see what happens and see where you get to. So start small, optimize your campaigns and then grow. Don't ever launch a campaign and then just leave it running and not do anything with it because it won't work. Oh yeah, I think I've covered that. If you want me or Kate to log into your Airship account, log into your business manager on Facebook and have a poke around and give you 5 bullet points of something you could do better, give us a shout.
Great, thanks, Jake.
Just stand there, don't go anywhere.
Any more questions? Any more questions for Jake?
Is there a reason if you're using 1% similarity? Have you tried it with, because I think you can have different percentages, do 3%.
You can go up to 10%. The reason we're only using 1% is because we've had the results using 1% similarity, so we don't feel the need to expand it any further. If we weren't getting those results, which we see with other clients for different styles of campaigns, we do use 2% and 3%. But yeah, we'd rather try and keep it as similar as possible.
Great. Any more? No? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, pal. Thanks. Great. So